we shall definitely solve those issues you've raised, and we are
people in Chigo are listening to you.
Yes,
and sometimes you go to that seminar.
We assure the people of Chigo that NEMA, working with relevant lead agencies, will address the issues in Chigo.
Okay, and then in your absence, Ssemujju nearly murdered you on gang here.
I was listening to
you were listening.
Yes, I was listening.
Here is a good time to respond to him.
And I was saying that a criminal offense should have been opened against the Honorable Ssemujju for inciting violence. That time.
Well, when he said those people evicted should come to your house?
Yes, that was incitement of violence. But he's a reformed man, I'm sure. He's not inciting violence anymore. Yeah. And we pledged to work with him to address environmental issues, even in his constituents. Because the laws we are implementing are really his laws. We're implementing the 2019 National Environment Act, which he enacted himself. So we are implementing his wishes and aspirations.
So how have you settled that issue? Where have those people gone to?
The
which people?
The one Ssemujju was agitating for the eviction.
No. He evicted the people in Nansana, in Rubiji.
Yes.
Left there Ruto's petrol station, left there a police station. So they went for the power race. That's what he did.
But police station, that would be understandable.
In a wetland?
Anywhere.
In a wetland. So you tell me the reason I'm living is the environment.
Is there. Well, I've allowed you to ask him.
But police should settle there, and Ruto should construct a petrol station there.
Even in a national park, even on a lake, if there is need for security can deploy there.
Even in his home.
They are not there permanently. They are there as an operation center, because you remember the insecurity that used to plague that area. People were being killed there, robbed. So the station came there as an operation center to address security issues, but it's not a permanent station. It's not permanent. It's just operations.
But the question from me was, so how have you resettled those people?
No, there is no issue of resettlement, as you are aware. What we are doing then and what we are doing now is to remove encroachers from wetlands. To encroach on a wetland is a criminal offense established under National Environment Act, which is punishable by 12 years jail sentence or 600 million fine. So it's a criminal offense. We are just removing encroachers, and we are not, for now, actually prosecuting them. So they have amnesty if they live peacefully, and we give them notes, sensitize them, work with them to live. As I speak now, the operation is ongoing in Rubiji, and the people are responding. And we thank them. So we are not in a resettlement. That's not our mandate. That's the mandate of the Ministry for Disaster Relief and Refugees in the Office of the Prime Minister. Ours is to enforce the law, to remove encroachers. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You see, Oscar, there are two things I will say about NEMA. First, the law he claims is implementing lays out a procedure. The procedure starts with the institutions under the law. In each and every district, they are supposed to have an environment committee. When you issue a restoration order like he did, there is even supposed to be a tribunal. People you are asking to vacate, a process they follow when they disagree with you is in the law. They can appeal to the tribunal, but you also work through these committees that are non-existing. What Akankwasa did was to go like many government institutions, go and implement Museveni's emotions about environment. He did not even, I think, know that a law existed and it gives guidance. And that's why maybe, so most of the meetings we had with him, and I said we had, not necessarily that I attended all the meetings, were meetings about the law, that you break the law to implement the law. And the last time I checked, they were attempting now to set up a Kampala Environment Committee. These things needed to be in place. And that committee, all elected leaders are part of that committee. He may say it's not my mandate to resettle people, but you're in a government agency whose duty is to serve people. So when you go and cause the mayhem like you caused that day, you cannot wash your hands clean and say, for me, those things don't concern me. That's why the Environment Committee is supposed to be comprised, among others, by the elected leaders. So the committees are not there, the tribunal is not there, the restoration order. So he was working like a military man. I want you to move, and they move. So if you don't follow the law, you cannot break the law to go and implement the law.
Let him respond.
But also, as I said, and deliberately he avoided the Ruto's petrol station there. He spoke about the police. I don't know, maybe even Ruto is providing security. That you go to the area, chase the ordinary people. Ruto's petrol station you don't touch.
You make the point.
We've addressed the matter of the fuel station for a long time, but if you give me time, I will talk about it. But let me first clarify the misstatement, the misfact that has been laid on table. I have been hearing it that you require an environment and a natural resource committee before you do enforcement of the law. That's not true. It's not in the law, neither is it in practice. What he's talking about is district environment and natural resource committees established under the National Environment Act. These committees, their composition is known. It has the technical teams and the political team, including MPs. Now, the purpose of that committee is to help that local government address environmental issues in that local government, as well as advise the central government on matters to do with the environment in that local government. So these committees are very important and they are statutory, but they are not in the loop of enforcement operations, and they should never be mixed. These are strategic committees that guide, that give strategy, that speak in terms of policy direction. Now, the restoration orders are established under the same law and a different section, section 130. Before, if somebody has encroached on a place and you want to remove him, the law provides that you give them 21 days notice, which you give them, and within 21 days they have a right to appeal the order to the ED, and the ED establishes a review mechanism which is in place already, and people have appealed. Some people of Rubiji appealed, and their appeals have been heard by the review committee. So all the institutional requirements for enforcement are in place. The courts are in place. The review mechanism is in place. So the enforcement has nothing to do with
two more questions I have for you, Dr. Kankwasa.
Yes.
The first one from a listener. Yes. How far have you gone with the Kavera issue?
The Kavera issue, we are bringing an amendment to the National Environment
And I ask this because I'm going to finish off asking about the ozone layer and zone, because you cannot get to that stage if you have not sorted Kavera.
In fact, the Kavera contributes to ozone problems, but the Kavera is a legal issue. Parliament in 2019 established a law that required people not to use or produce the polythene Kavera or plastic carrier bags of 30 microns and below. So the problem became enforcement. 30 microns and 40 microns cannot be distinguished by a common eye. So you have to pick a sample, first take it to the laboratory, then come with a decision that this is below, this is above, which became a problem to implement. So what we are doing now, we work with UNBS, which the law vests the authority to enforce that provision, to ensure that the manufacturers manufacture polythene carrier bags of above 30 microns as required by law. But the strategic solution in our view is to phase out plastic carrier bags, because we can have alternative, and the alternatives are already in place. We have fabric bags, we have paper bags, we have plastic bags which can be reused. So we believe that alternatives are in place, and it is high time Uganda phased out plastic carrier bags and other single-use plastics, so that we focus on reusable and durable.
Whose job is it to phase out the plastic?
It's a legislative issue, and I'm saying we are coming up already with an amendment. Cabinet already agreed that we prepare an amendment which will go to Cabinet and then to Parliament so that we ban single-use carrier bags and other problematic single-use plastics. For example, these water bottles. Why can't we go back to glass bottles? All other countries have gone back, even within East Africa itself. We remain an island using these plastics, whereas we can recycle them. It's not adequate. Eventually, we need to find alternatives. We have sand. Why can't we make glass, which we can reuse and reuse? If it gets broken, you crush and reuse again. So we have better alternatives, and this is going to be addressed. Yeah.
When you're in Kigali, you can see just visibly with the eye that there are no plastics. What can we copy?
Well, Kigali has banned single-use carrier bags, but also plastic bottles are being managed, and I think that's the way to go. And it is not only Kigali, actually, the world has moved. As I speak, there is an international negotiating committee established by United Nations to discuss and come up with a legally binding treaty to control plastic pollution, because estimates indicate that in 10 years, if we do not act, we shall have more plastics in waters than fish. So the situation is very, very alarming.
So, NEMA, you want to present Ozone for Life, and you're saying you look at the Montreal Protocol nationally, following on to global guidance. But if we're still cutting trees, we have not sorted out Kavera, we still ban. People just collect their rubbish and ban, and we still have Chitezi with us. So how can we aspire for such lofty notions like Ozone for Life?
Ozone actually is a multilateral environment management success story. In 1987, scientists having realized that we have a hole in the ozone layer. The ozone layer is a layer of gas or ozone molecules which help us to prevent damaging ultraviolet rays from the sun from reaching us. God was very, very scientific that he created layers. From the Earth's surface, we have the troposphere, where we have gases that we breathe. Then we have stratosphere, and then we have the ozone layer as you move to the sun. Now, this one helps us to capture the ultraviolet rays from reaching us. You see that scientific design. People who don't believe should believe actually that God was remains the biggest scientist. So because of
these are things you should tell Ssemujju. Me, I'm a practicing teacher, so
yes, it's very, very important to have belief in God, because if you look at the Earth's surface and its design, it cannot have been accidental. It's scientifically designed.
I'm telling Ssemujju that this is on the syllabus.
Okay, but because of
but doctor, you continue with make it relevant to us, Uganda.
Yes, because of our human practices, particularly use of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, or chemicals that have carbon, chlorine, and fluorine. These chemicals, which were used in refrigerations and air conditioning and other ozone depleting substances like halogens. Now, these ones eat up the ozone layer and created a hole. And when the hole is created, these ultraviolet rays come and cause skin cancers, cause cataracts in eyes, and also affect the productivity of crops. And the sources were refrigerants, air conditioning chemicals, but also agriculture. Agriculture, use of fertilizers releases nitrous oxides into the atmosphere, which also affects the ozone layer. So the world realized that we were going into a crisis, and in 1987, the world unanimously agreed to come up with a protocol, the Montreal Protocol, to address the issues that were depleting ozone. And I can tell you from 1987, it is the only treaty in environment management where you can see that progress has been made. The ozone layer has been healed, not completely. It is estimated that the ozone layer will be, the hole will be completely healed by 2070. But
so finally,
significant
Dr. Kankwaza,
progress
what are
has
we
been
doing
made.
in Uganda? Yes,
No, in Uganda we are
bring
doing
it to
a
Uganda.
lot of things. Policy reforms. Uganda ratified the Montreal Protocol in 1988, just 1 year after its enactment. We've phased out substances that deplete ozone. Chlorofluorocarbons have been phased out and replaced with hydrofluorocarbons and environmentally friendly refrigerants. We are training the technicians in partnership with Chambogo and other vocational education institutions, so that when you go to repair a fridge or an aircon, you use certified and approved gases that do not destroy ozone. So we are doing capacity development of the technicians. We are giving them training kits. We are also raising awareness amongst the general population not to engage in activities that release these gases that deplete our ozone. Reforestation remains top on our agenda, and the last time I was here, I updated the nation that we are making progress, albeit slowly, but there is progress. The forest cover is recovering. The forest, the wetland cover has also appreciated by 0.2%.
I'm looking at you the way Kamala Harris looked at Donald Trump.
0.2%. And so we have to continue working together. We have to continue working together to ensure that we heal the planet. If we do not heal the planet, ultimately we shall perish together.
And his dog.
It's the way I'm looking at Dr. Kankwaza when he talks about reforestation.
Yes, we are doing reforestation. Our forest has improved. Our forest cover has improved from 9%, from only 9%, having reduced from 45%. We are now back to 13%. So there is progress, and our target of 2040, yes, we've now recovered from 9% to now 13%. So there is progress, and don't look at that as a small achievement. Don't look at that as small achievement, because look at the population we had in 1962. We had just 8 million people. How many people do we have now? So you cannot expect to have back the 45%. It's not possible. So our target is actually 15 by 2040. So we are on track to achieving the 2040 targets for afforestation.
Let me start with you, Honorable Dombo.
In addition to what you have said,
you're going to support me maybe at the end of the show when I ask him, at the end of the hour when I ask him if there are any resignations about Kitezi and so on. But to have his very big ideas when we still have a few things to sort out, how can you support NEMA, Emmanuel Dombo? I must warn you are seated in a chair where you support everything government.
The expectation from public is very horrendous. And all NEMA work depends on the availability of resources and goodwill from politicians. There are two things that must be available in order for them to execute their mandate. Unfortunately, quite often when NEMA wants to implement its mandate, the politicians, because they are associated with the population, either incite them or mislead them on what should have been done in order to enable NEMA do what they're supposed to do.
You're looking at Ssemujju now.
Not necessarily Ssemujju. I come from an area where the other day we were in Kisoro. When you look at the land practices in Kisoro, you see that the people, it's a very tradition. It's an old community which was trained. When you see the land preservation practices, and you come and overfly Buganda, as we came from Kisoro, we overfly. You can see here.
You all came here, so you don't have the same pressure like Uganda has.
No, but even in
from wherever you lived, you all came here.
But even in Butaleja,
yes.
When we were young, we used to take clean water from the river and you drink it. Right now, all rivers in Uganda are silted.
But
and
also Kisoro has higher population pressure than Central.
So,
in terms of population pressure.
So as government, for us, we are going as a party. Now, I'll first of all talk as a member of the NRM, because environmental protection and the directive by the president, who is also national chairman of NRM, basically wants to protect the environment. One of the mistakes that people usually make, we don't know that we all share the same environment, those living today and those who live in the future. And it is the responsibility of those living now to ensure that we conserve the environment so that those who will be born later can get and partake of it without destroying it. So for us, we shall propose the legislation. We shall push our members of parliament to ensure that they provide the resources, but also push government to ensure that the resources that are required. But now the remaining part is the goodwill from all the actors, especially the politicians who usually want to associate with the population even when they may be in the wrong, but also to find out. For indicators, I've been listening to the population too, and I've met some of the people, and I was wondering, is it true that those people who were settling in Ikitezi have land titles which were given by agencies of government, and what are the implications if they do exist? That's something that will help us to understand.
Yeah.